Okay, this is week two Google Hangout. Just want to go over some what to do this week, go over a few notes. Won't be long tonight at all. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the Google Hangout environment, either during the Google Hangout or even post Google Hangout. You can watch the video that's been recorded now, and I'll also answer any questions during or post session. So week two, basically, hopefully you've gotten Visual Studio installed and started playing with it in week one. Chapter one reading this week. I encourage you to do all the examples, read and do. Chapter one, 3 attempts, untimed max score out of the 3. You also have discussion and a program assignment. There is a podcast already in here I do suggest watching before doing anything. It's a podcast prior to the semester, but it definitely goes over everything you need to know for this week. Any date-related items you can disregard that might be in the podcast. Also, Course Success will help you get started with being successful with a course. So I'll go over some notes as far as Visual Studio goes. First is Visual Studio 2010 is an object-oriented programming language. What that means is anything that can be seen, touched, or used can be created in object-oriented application. A class is a pattern used to create an object, and an instance is an object created from a class. Object is said to be instantiated. An example would be a text box. Text box is an object. You can see it. A class of a text box would be a click event. How to click when you click on that object, that text, what happens. Or a button can be an object as well. Click event for that. Integrated Development Environment, IDE. This contains all the tools needed to create, run, and test a program. It includes Visual Basic, Visual C++, Visual C#, and Visual F. The application is a program or suite of programs. It's Windows-based, has a Windows user interface, runs on a personal PC. If you do have a Mac, you can run in a virtual environment as well and install it. User interface, what the user sees and interacts with when using the application. And web-based application, has a web user interface, runs on a web server, and it can be accessed from any computer web browser. Windows application consists of solutions, projects, and files. A solution is simply a container that stores projects and files for an entire application. A project is a container that stores files associated with that portion or solution. A solution may contain one or more projects. So an example is like a filing cabinet. A filing cabinet, the drawer would be the solution, the project would be a folder, and the file would be the files within the folder. When you start Visual 2010, you just click the Start button on your Windows 7 or 8 machine, point to All Programs, and go to Visual Studio 2010 and start it. Pretty simple. This is what the first screen looks like when you load up initially. You have some components. On the upper right is the Solution Explorer, Start page on the upper left, Toolbox window on the left side as well. The Toolbox window does have a little pin that can be clicked on to dock it, and then be sure to check boxes that are selected here on the bottom left. So to create a Windows 2010 application, you basically start it up first, and then basically that step's necessary. You're going to go through some screen agrees that you've already done. You can click on the Tools menu to look at the different options that are available as well. Then number 3, click on the File menu, New Project, and open a project to start it up. You enter your appropriate name and location in the name and location boxes. If necessary, select and create a directory, and then finally enter appropriate name for that solution, and then finally save it on step 8. This is just an option screen that comes up. Talks about deselecting these 3 checkboxes here. Make this a little bit larger where you can see it, which is advanced compilation, showing output window and prompting for sidebar. You select the Windows template. Windows form template is what we're going to use most of the semester, or in fact all the semester. Name it, create it, and then this is your screen. And you have here the form view, the project over here, and then the properties here. Managing Windows within a Windows environment. Make sure and read this slide. It's important to know that information. On this slide, it goes over the different parts of a form Windows Designer. Basically, the Windows Form Designer allows you to create the design itself, buttons, labels, text boxes, the graphical user interface, what the user sees and interacts with, and the Windows Form is kind of like your canvas for the application, where you add objects like buttons and text boxes to the form. There's also a title bar with a caption, minimize and maximize buttons, close buttons. And then you tap on the top of the designer window. The tab on the top of the designer window has a form1.vb that it'll show up right here. And you're familiar with a Windows screen, and that's what it looks like. So as soon as you start a project, you can literally hit the play button or Control 5 and start that application. Granted, it'll be blank, nothing will be on it, but you'll see a form. And then Solution Explorer is going to be a place where you place everything within your solution. I recommend you, if you've not already done so, go through the entire screens here, the 70 screens for week 2 before you attempt any programming whatsoever. And do that each week. Go through these slideshows to help you. In addition to watch the pre-podcast I generally have in the first screen of the task when you go into that week's module. Quiz 1, again, open book. It's 10 points, three attempts available, and the highest score out of the 3. Make sure you've done your reading beforehand and watched the podcast and done the slideshow. The assignment for this week basically is you're going to complete the case project, The Castle's Ice Cream Parlor in Chapter 1, page 67, 60, 76, 77. The program is to be created from scratch, and there's no solution to start with, because some weeks does have you start with a solution file from the data files. And while I'm talking about the data files, every week's assignment should have these resource links at the bottom. But before I go there, let me talk about the extra credit. Every week, you have the opportunity to create extra credit, to get extra credit for creativity, like adding color, more readability, formatting, pictures, etc. If you do include new features or added features that I don't require, that's not required in the book or a program assignment I give you, just make sure when you submit the assignment in week 2 here that you add a message in the note before you submit it of what you added for extra credit. Podcast is here as well for you to watch as well. Make sure, and on these resources, I'll go over these: package and sending your assignment course success data files, and then the programming solutions. The first one will give you step-by-step on how to package and send. Make sure you've first completed the project, then make your declaration at the first line of the main form, the very top, your name, course, CIS180 int. Make sure and put the apostrophe at the beginning of the line, because that's going to tell the compiler it's a note, it's a comment. Then this is going to be week 2, and then application name, and then whatever date it is that you completed that assignment. Make sure the project's closed after you've done that in VB. You'll right-click on the folder that contains your project and compress it. By default, the project folder will be found in your My Documents Visuals 2010 projects and whatever the name of the application is, especially when, like this week, when you're creating a new project. Zip together the contents, week 2 this week, .zip, and then submit it together. Course success will give you some information on ways to succeed in the course, and if you get stuck, what to do. Download data files. I'm not going to click on this, but if you click on this, it's going to take you to an area to download the data files, which you will need some weeks. In fact, when you click on this word here is going to be the exact area you want to click on to download the data files. And again, there are some weeks you do need those data files to start a project that's already been started, to pick up on a project that's already been started, or to get some files needed. Solution modules, if you click on this, it's basically going to take you to a module where all the solutions are found for the semester, starting even with this week here. You can download this, which is a completed solution, or if you get stuck, you can look at it and get help by looking at it. So that's a week 2 assignment. The discussion this week is, why do you think it's important to visualize what your program should look like and function before you begin creating in Visual Studio? One of the first mistakes programmers want to make when they first learn programming is they want to get in and start coding and start doing things. You want to really think about what the program should do, function, and you can write that on a whiteboard. You can use a piece of paper and draw it out, and get the logic down before ever starting. So put your best answer there, whatever you feel is correct for you, and then read others and maybe reply to them as well. And I know a few have already started doing that. So that completes a week 2 Google Hangout. And if you have any questions, you can post them here, post session here in just a second, and I'll answer them in the Google Hangout. Each week we will have a Google Hangout for that week. They'll generally be very short and sweet, but it'll be something for you to watch live if needed and ask any questions if needed. So have a great week. If you have any questions, you can definitely shoot me an email. You can do a chat live within our conference, which I'll show you where that's at real quick here. On our homepage, there's a chat live. Generally, I'm online, available on Friday evening, usually between 4 and 6. Also on Wednesday between 6 and 7. And then on Sunday between 6 and 7 on live chat. If you can't get me on live chat, you can always email me, and definitely follow the steps on the course success. That'll help you tremendously. All right, well, have a great week, and I will see you next week.